If you're emotionally attached to the wrong person, the signs are rarely loud. They don't arrive as chaos or obvious pain. They show up quietly, in your thoughts, your reactions, and the way your energy shifts around them. Emotional attachment doesn't always feel like love. Sometimes it feels like overthinking, like checking your phone without realizing why, like adjusting your mood based on how they treat you that day. And the hardest part is that you don't notice it happening. You tell yourself you're just being patient, that you're understanding, that you're giving someone time, but deep down, something feels off, not painful enough to leave, not healthy enough to stay. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Because being attached to the wrong person doesn't drain you all at once. It happens slowly, in moments you normalize, excuses you make, and silence you learn to live with. Stay with me until the end. Because once you recognize these signs, you'll understand why it's been so hard to let go, and why your body noticed the truth long before your heart was ready to admit it. When attachment feels quiet but heavy, it usually starts in ways that don't seem serious. You think about them a little more than you should. You replay conversations, wondering if you said too much or not enough. Your mood shifts depending on how present or distant they feel that day. You don't call it attachment because that word feels too strong. You call it caring. You call it patience. You call it understanding someone who's just going through a lot. But slowly something changes inside you. You begin to shrink parts of yourself to keep the peace. You hesitate before expressing how you really feel. You start reading between their silences more than listening to your own needs. The weight shows up in your body first. Tightness in your chest when they don't reply. Relief when they finally do. An anxious calm that depends entirely on their behavior. And yet nothing is openly wrong. They haven't hurt you enough to justify leaving. They haven't shown up enough to make you feel secure, so you stay in the in-between. You become emotionally invested in someone who gives you just enough to hold on, but never enough to rest. Because it's subtle, you don't see it as unhealthy. You see it as loyalty. But loyalty that costs you peace is not love. And attachment that feels heavy, confusing, and one-sided is often your intuition trying to speak quietly. One of the quietest signs you're attached to the wrong person is how often you explain them to yourself. You become fluent in their excuses. You understand their silence before they ever explain it. You tell yourself they're not emotionally unavailable, just tired, just busy, just healing. And the more you explain them, the less you ask from them. You lower expectations so you don't feel disappointed. You silence your needs so you don't feel demanding. You adjust your emotional posture to fit whatever space they're willing to offer. Over time, waiting becomes your normal. You stop asking yourself how you feel. You focus on how they feel instead. You measure the connection by how little conflict there is, not by how safe you feel. That's when attachment replaces connection, because real connection doesn't require you to abandon yourself to keep it alive. Your body often knows before your heart admits it. Intuition rarely speaks in words. It speaks in sensations. That tight feeling when you see their name on your phone, not excitement, but tension. The way your shoulders relax when you're finally alone. The exhaustion you feel after interactions that weren't even difficult on the surface. Your body notices what your heart keeps forgiving. You may tell yourself you're overthinking, that you're too sensitive. That if you just relaxed, things would feel easier, but peace doesn't require constant self-correction. When you're attached to the wrong person, your nervous system is always on alert. You prepare for disappointment before it happens. You rehearse conversations that never take place. You brace yourself for distance, even during closeness. Slowly, you stop trusting your own reactions. You override discomfort with logic. You silence intuition with hope. You choose familiarity over safety. But your body keeps track. It remembers the times you felt unseen. It holds the unease you couldn't explain. It reacts before your mind catches up. That's not weakness. That's wisdom trying to get your attention. Attachment feels urgent. Intuition feels calm, but firm. One pulls you towards someone who drains you, the other pulls you back toward yourself. Letting go of the wrong person doesn't feel relieving at first. It feels like loss, not because the connection was healthy, but because it was familiar, because it carried hope, because you invested parts of yourself that mattered. You grieve what you believed it could become. You grieve the future you quietly imagined, the version of them you kept waiting for, the version of yourself that tried harder, loved deeper, stayed longer. This grief is confusing. Part of you knows leaving is right. Another part aches for what almost was. That's why attachment to the wrong person is so powerful. It's rooted in potential, not reality. When you walk away, your mind reminds you of the good moments, but it forgets the cost, the anxiety you normalized, the emotional effort you carried alone, the way you made yourself smaller to stay connected. Letting go doesn't mean the feelings weren't real. It means you're choosing truth over hope. Grief isn't a sign you made the wrong choice. It's a sign you cared deeply, even when it wasn't reciprocated in the way you needed. Freedom doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives quietly. You notice you're breathing deeper. Your thoughts no longer orbit around one person. Your emotions feel less dependent on someone else's availability. The absence that once scared you begins to feel spacious. You feel yourself returning, not the version of you who was waiting, hoping, adjusting, but the version who feels steady without explanation, calm without permission. You stop scanning for signals. You stop interpreting silence. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's consistency. And the most surprising part? You don't feel empty. You feel clear. Letting go of the wrong attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop abandoning yourself. You begin to recognize what safe connection actually feels like. Mutual effort, emotional clarity, ease. And once you experience that, you can no longer mistake confusion for love. If this felt like your story, don't judge yourself. Honor how long you tried. Attachment kept you there. Intuition led you here. You didn't fail by staying too long. You grew by leaving when it mattered. And the fact that you're listening now means you're ready for a connection that doesn't cost you your peace. If this resonated with you, comment, "I choose peace." You were never too much. You were just attached to the wrong person, and now you're free. If this spoke to something inside you, don't rush past it. Honor how long you tried. Comment, "I choose peace," and let this be the moment you stop abandoning yourself. Today, you finally listened. If you're ready to choose peace, comment, "I choose myself." Like this video if you're done questioning your sensitivity. Subscribe if you want reminders that love should feel safe, steady, and whole, not something you recover from. You're not late. You're right on time.